How to start a fundable startup. In this video, I'm going to show you the full system and the difference between just doing a regular startup, like how pretty much every founder thinks they should be going about things, and creating a fundable startup, meaning you're going to have the optionality of seeking different funding sources, which we will get into. This is also the AI first edition. I'm going to show you all my hacks, all my tricks, on how to do this with AI. It's also part of my CFXO system, stands for Chief Funding Execution Officer. It's a standalone video. You'll have everything that you need to hear, and you'll be able to learn. But at any point in time, you can go to the description or the links and download the worksheets and other resources, as well as subscribe to my newsletter, which I highly recommend if you want to learn how to be a CFXO. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If we met before, nice to see you again. As usual, use the chapter markers to skip right ahead to the good part of the video. If we haven't met, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits. That's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times, and that's to your benefit because I use videos like this, and I've created CFXO and this channel to help early stage founders raise early stage capital, avoiding some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier. And again, that's why I created this entire system, to learn from my mistakes and put it into a repeatable process for you to be able to build a fundable startup. I'm also the Chief Strategy Officer for Startups.com. If you're from Startups.com, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your support. While everybody's here, like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube thing. I'd love to know what you think. That's enough. Let's jump into how to build a fundable startup. First off, everything is different now. Lean startup, which you might be familiar with, is somewhat obsolete. Not saying it's completely pointless, but it can be misleading because founders think they should build a minimum viable product first. AI is only adding to the complexity. AI is changing so many things. There's a new normal out there, and you're starting to see investors talk different, look at startups different, and that's what you need to pay attention to. I can't stress this enough. I'm watching video after video of major investors, prolific investors, talk about taking an AI-first approach and how fast startups are getting the revenue, getting out there. And you might think, oh, I have to start building something to get there, and that's one way to go about it. But there's so much noise and confusion, and investors are going to start paying attention to that. And you want to be able to cut through the noise and make sense of it all and do things from a systematic fashion. It's all about systems. Instead of setting goals for traction or goals for fundraising, it's about creating those systems and using AI to help you get there faster than other people. But there's so much competition now with so many people building things that you are going to have to differentiate yourself, and that's what we're here to do. During the early days of startups, one of the seminal books that we all learned to read was The Lean Startup. There are timeless principles that you should be reading and gleaning from this book. I highly recommend it as one of the foundational first steps of being a startup founder. In The Lean Startup, there came this methodology where you build, measure, learn. And that's using product, data, and ideas. The challenge is that was back then. There's a difference now in how startups are becoming successful, and you have to pay attention to the changing times. And that's the reason in CFXO, you do not start here at the build phase. That's where everybody else is going. They're using these AI tools to build, and they're putting all these MVPs in the market. That's precisely the opposite way that we want to go. It may seem counterintuitive, but I'm going to break it down for you. But just remember, if you have the temptation, which is sort of this innovator's bias to go out and build and think your idea of what you're building is good, that's going to get you in trouble today, especially today. And investors are going to see that, and you're going to miss out on many opportunities for optionality when it comes to funding. That's why I created this CFXO canvas. And like I said, you can download it in the description or the comments. Don't worry about being overwhelmed by all those boxes. We're going to go through each of these one step at a time. Now, you might already be down further along on the path of doing a startup. Maybe you've already started developing an MVP. I strongly encourage you to pause and learn and go back and see if you're missing some steps. It's never too late. Don't get in the trap of sunk cost fallacy. That's a cognitive bias where you say, I've already spent so much time, the train has left the station, I'm not going to stop it. That's just going to get you in more trouble. Building things always takes twice as long and twice as much money. And I know way too many founders stuck in that trap of sunk cost fallacy. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. It is a trap you want to avoid. Nobody's going to fault you for stopping and saying, let me go back and see if I've done it right, and go back and fill in some of the gaps. You might be able to accelerate through this really quickly. You might be a veteran, but don't take what you know for granted. Let me be your advisor, have your back, maybe point out some blind spots, and we'll be fine. Don't worry, we're going to do this together. Step one is idea validation. And this is where you are going to create an idea validation pitch deck. This step is designed to help you achieve founder funding fit. That means you're going to know what funding fits best for you, and you are going to get the funding process started and make sure that you are developing that fit as you go. Instead of trying to go from 0 to 100 later, you're going to build up for it, especially if you're a new founder. This is going to help you. Now, 9 out of 10 founders skip this step. And trust me, I know. I've helped hundreds of founders at startups.com. I see you coming into startups.com without doing this idea validation step. Usually it's already building something, and now you need help getting customers. And I always recommend do not skip out on idea validation. And so many times I ask, did you do any formal idea validation? And 9 out of 10 founders say no. What happens is you end up with a solution looking for a problem. That's when you've got the innovator's bias and you are thinking to yourself, this is going to be a great solution. I want it. It has to be right because I've got a few signals out there. Maybe some of your friends need it. You just thought, okay, it's a good idea. But is it good enough to become a startup? Is it validated enough to warrant investment? And many times founders build, and they spend a lot of money. They'll YOLO like $150,000 of their retirement funds or all their savings and launch, and nobody cares. And then you go out and start to raise funding, and you start thinking to yourself, what problem would an investor really want to invest in? And you come up shoehorning as many problems into it as possible, and you start getting all vague and ambiguous and confused when it comes to who you are trying to target, your initial user. And investors, they can smell this a mile away. I can immediately tell in a pitch deck when the problem and the solution are not aligned, and the solution is so well thought out, but we don't know if there's a market, there's demand for it, and people are actually willing to pay for it because the founder has not done idea validation. The idea validation has 9 slides, and I've done a video dedicated to this solely. You can look it up on the playlist that's going to be coming up at the end of this video. You're going to do these 9 slides. It's kind of like your mini pitch deck or your pitch deck light, and you're going to get feedback from everybody, potential FFA, which stands for friends, family, and associates, which leads to generous angels, and potential customers. This deck is going to get you practice and get you feedback before you commit resources in starting to build. You will find that feedback will either validate or invalidate you so much faster and make the rest of the journey so much less painful. Now, how do you use AI? You actually can just go and say, build me this pitch deck. Go load in all these components. Say, Ed wants me to build a pitch deck, and I want you to be an expert advisor. Get me a cover with a description. Here are all the information, the inputs. Tell the AI all about your startup. I do this all the time. Put in the parameters and say, give it to me in 1 sentence. Make it simple so that everybody else can understand. And then go get feedback and come back and put that feedback into AI and say, I just presented it to this type of potential investor, and they said they don't understand this slide. How could I fix it? And then you'll get feedback and start talking about the market. Ask AI the questions. How should I approach the market here and there? That's where being AI first comes to you asking AI first. Don't just start off with what's in your head. Ask and empty your brain. Just say, tell me about this industry. Tell me about this market. And you'll start to load up. And the best part is ChatGPT, O3 especially, and other tools will start to remember and start to build a codex for you that you can always access in case you forget some details. It's amazing how you can load up all these different websites and you can start to say, hey, if I want to present an idea validation pitch deck, a pitch deck just to get feedback, it will literally make the pitch deck for you, give you a PowerPoint version, give you the graphics. Why rely on yourself when AI can do it faster, better, cheaper for you? That's what it means to be AI first. What's something that I can't do or has got a lot of friction? How can I get AI to do it for me? And you don't think that I'm doing this? I build AI agents based upon all my best practices and how I want pitch decks to come out all the time for very specific use cases. You can do your own thing, and I want you to do it because you have to learn how to prompt AI to help be like an advisor or even a co-founder to you. Go AI first. Now that you've got feedback from your idea validation pitch deck, you're ready to go on to step 2, which is your unique value proposition, or UVP for short. You're going to, guess what? Use AI to develop a unique value proposition. And I've got all the parameters that you want to understand before you come up with what's called a two-liner. You're going to explain your target audience. You're going to talk about the problem, the solution. Remember, you've gotten validation from all of this. And you're going to add in all the different things, such as how you're different. And you're going to add all the other features from a customer standpoint on what your differentiation is, the tangible results, and the emotional payoff. Why do you do this? It's for your customer. Your UVP is what gets your customer saying, all right, thank God for you for solving that problem. Take my money. And you literally can ask AI to write you a two-liner with those components. Who is it for? Problem and solution, and how you do it. Then your second line is going to be why it's unique and what the final result is. And if you do this step properly, you are going to be developing founder problem fit, where you fit the problem. Why? Because you understand it inside and out. You know what the customers want. It's from a customer standpoint, not what you want, you falling in love with your solution, but what customers want from you. Here's an example, and this was AI generated. Now, it was edited by me, and I make sure that I manage all the quality, check all the hallucinations, but it is done by AI first. CFXO helps early-stage founders overwhelmed by fundraising by integrating capital raising into a simplified execution system. Proven across $100 million raised for startups, our one-page canvas locks in accountability, sparks investor interest, and keeps every funding path open. How does that sound? It sounded pretty good to me. Eventually, I could have got there by myself. I believe in my skills, but I got there literally in 10% of the time using AI. That's AI first. When you're AI first, you're letting AI do the work, but you're also enhancing that AI with humans. Instead of being a human enhanced by AI for productivity, you're saying, I'm going to let the AI work, and I'm going to enhance the AI with productivity. Think about all the people that you have had to have brought together to create a unique value proposition. If you would have gotten the research and the person to wordsmith it and the person to make it cool or give you a brand or give you all those insights, now you can get that done with AI. And you're not taking away jobs. What you're doing is you're taking away the part of the job that makes people least productive so they can focus on other things, such as adding the nuance, adding the special blend of herbs and spices on there to make it stand out, which is what I always do. And I'm willing to invest in people who can enhance AI, but not get bogged down. And so many founders and so many employees, consultants, professionals, freelance out there refuse to reskill and upskill. That's going to be a challenge that I don't want to get caught up with. I want to move as quickly as possible to the point where I can get this thing funded. Most likely, you're bootstrapped, you don't have a lot of budget, so use AI tools in the way that I'm recommending. In step 3, you're going to create your ideal customer profile, or your ICP, and you are going to be asking AI who your early adopters are. Just start having that conversation. And this is what goes into an ideal customer profile. There's an innovation adoption curve of innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Founders target the wrong user all the time right out of the gate. That's why I want you to have a conversation with AI and say, who are my early adopters for this? Once you've figured out those early adopters, you're going to ask AI to build you a profile, and you will add in who you want to target or get an array of profiles, multiple options. And that's going to have firmographics, demographics, psychographics, goals and desires, the challenges and blocks, current alternatives, buying behaviors, who the decision makers are, and the influencers. This is the first step in establishing founder market fit. Founders ignore this step all the time. They think building is the only thing they need to do, or they need to know how to solve a problem. You also need to know how to approach the marketplace. That's why founders with networks that have established connections and know how to get to customers, know who to talk to, the decision makers, they maybe have a reputation or a brand in the specific industry, have an advantage in distribution. Maybe not in development, but distributing the product after it comes out is going to be so key. It's also so key in the early stages, especially when I'm going to get you going on founder-led sales. Here's my AI-generated, yet edited and curated by me example. I'm not going to read this, but I wanted to create a story, and it's very exact. You can pause it and read it if you want. This allows me to pinpoint and target, because when you try to sell to everybody, you sell to nobody. I know who my avatar is, and I just happen to have a lot of data, and I've been developing it. You're one of them if you're watching this video. Remember, this is all in the name of founder market fit. But a lot of founders say to me, Ed, I don't want to narrow down my niche, but I say riches are in the niches. And you say, well, wait a second, if I'm only selling to a certain small segment, how am I going to scale and make a lot of money? The reason you do it is to dominate, establish what investors call a beachhead market. Think about Facebook. When it first launched, it was only for Harvard students. You could not use Facebook without a Harvard email address. And everybody was going to Mark Zuckerberg and saying, my cousin wants to use it, Stanford wants to use it, MIT wants to use it, my aunt and uncle want to use it, my bowling club wants to use it. And he could have said yes and started diluting his attention and going after everyone, but he raised money strictly on college campus traction. They dominated Harvard, and then they went to Stanford, I think, or MIT. One of the three, they moved in sequence. And their first pitch deck was all about the traction that no students could focus on anything else because they're too busy using the Facebook. Investors love that story because if you can dominate one particular niche, the riches are in the niches, then the investor says, I can just give you money to go into the other place and you can replicate the results. And that's why you're going to take your unique value proposition and you're going to validate it against the ideal customer profile, the ICP. And you're going to be using a system called OKRAs, which I won't get into in this video, but it's objective, key results, and actions. You're going to say, okay, my objective is to validate whether my UVP is going to get my ICP to really jump out of their seats and say, hallelujah, start taking my money. I love it. Now notice we haven't built anything yet. We're still testing. Because think about it for a moment. How much easier is it to change a unique value proposition, just a bunch of words, let's say on a landing page or some type of presentation, and your ICP say, hey, I'm going to adjust the story a little bit. I'm going to try and talk to this type of demographic, this type of user next. It's way easier than having to change lines of code when you get that feedback, realizing you've been building features and your app does stuff that nobody cares about. Founder market fit is the ability to fit your unique value proposition into the marketplace. Therefore, you are proving yourself out to be a founder that knows how to sell and eventually scale towards profitability, which is what investors want to hear. Tell the investor, I tested this UVP according to this ICP, and these were the emotional hot buttons, or it fell flat. Investors love hearing the stories of how you've learned what not to do and how you eliminated through a systematic process. The more you can explain to investors how you achieved founder market fit, especially using AI, being AI first, the better off you'll be in the future and easier it will be to raise funding. Now in step 4, we're moving to the MVP, but instead of minimum viable product, I want you to think of it as a minimum viable project. What you're going to do is get one customer to love your product. Then you're going to get that one customer to pay you at least $1. And don't worry, I will explain why I use the number 1 so many times in just a moment. But stick with me on this step because you want to achieve something called problem solution fit. You understand the problem. You're a founder that fits the problem. You understand it inside and out, and now you know how to solve it. Remember, problem comes first, then the solution, but the two have to fit together, and that's going to be validated by one customer loving your product. You'd rather have one customer love what you're doing than 12 customers that are just sort of meh about it. Even 100 customers. You got to find that one raving fan, that one customer that absolutely loves you and thanks you for you producing the solution for a painful problem that they thought couldn't be solved, or they've been looking a better way to do it. I don't know what it is. You're finding that out as you go along, but you got to get that one customer out there. Here's the principle of the one. It's based on the 1% gains or marginal gains principle. It emphasizes making small incremental improvements in various areas that lead to significant overall progress. By focusing on consistent 1% improvements, individuals or teams can compound these small gains over time, achieving substantial results. Founders get so caught up in trying to go from 0 to 100 as fast as possible. And I get it. In startups, they say speed, velocity, momentum, whatever word you want to use, is paramount. But it can get so overwhelming. It's like looking at a bowl of alphabet soup. And founders get overwhelmed and saying, what do I do? And I say, listen, we will get to XYZ later on. But right now, we need to go ABC. And that's going to happen 1% at a time. You might have heard of Y Combinator saying, we have our startups growing 10% week over week. And that was the gold standard back in the day. And now it's kind of being normalized. But it's so hard to do that if you don't break it down in a systematic process. And this principle of 1% gains, marginal gains, will help you get there. It's so much easier, instead of going 1 to 100, say, how do we go from 0 to 1, then 1 to 2, a step at a time, and eventually you're going to get there, because if you're incrementally improving, all those improvements stack up. It's like that book, Atomic Habits. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And this system is all about incremental gains, iterations that are going to help you eventually catch up. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't worry, stick with me, trust the process. Here's some key points here. An MVP does not have to be the product itself. Founders make this mistake and say, I need to actually build the product. Maybe a light version, one with less features. It's buggy and janky all over. That's not necessarily what you have to do. Your project is to figure out what is the minimum level of product you need to validate or invalidate your assumptions. And that may not necessarily have to be the product itself. That's why you're going to try multiple versions of your MVP as tests. You're testing your assumptions. And I'm going to have a video dedicated to MVP specifically. I already have it planned, but right now this is an overview on the system. Build in iterations, take it one project at a time, treat it like mini projects, break it down, and you'll be just fine. Next, you want to figure out how to generate revenue in alternate ways to test the UVP. You can ask AI this specific question. Here's the product that I plan to do. Here's the problem, the solution of my product. How can I make money in the interim without having to build it? One of the basic ways to do it as a service, like be a consultant, do it manually out there first and start generating the money. Investors love that upfront revenue. I've gone out and I've said, listen, I made all our money basically doing consulting, and 100% of that is from bespoke services. And now what we're going to try to do is deliver 10% of the 100% of the revenues using a product, automated somehow. And we're slowly going to get it to the point where only 20% is being delivered and 80% is done by a program, or we productized it. Investors won't have to worry, are you building something that no one's going to pay for, nobody cares about? Guess what? You're already generating the revenue. I believe every startup can generate revenue in some form or another without the actual product itself. Feel free to try to change my mind, but I have way too much evidence, and I've done it myself way too many times for me to think otherwise. But remember this, if you have your UVP right, they will pay you at least something. Get on a waiting list, give you a deposit, crowdfunding, so many different ways. Get creative. Ask AI if you're lacking ideas. Talk to other founders. I love the creativity. Now in step 5, you're going to go out and establish an organic channel. And we're still in founder market fit here. Notice we're moving from each side of the canvas, the right side and the left side, and we're working our way inward. So the next step, you're going to find one customer channel. A customer channel is not just a tactic. It is a channel, a platform, a source where you're going to be able to get customers. Because while you might be able to go get one customer to love your product because you know them, it was an easy lift, which is okay. That's where you want to be when you're figuring out problem solution fit. To expand founder market fit, you have to explore channels. And then you're going to get one customer to refer another customer. Remember, it's all about marginal gains. But one customer referring another customer, they become a channel. And if you can do that, you are understanding your market. You know how to get the market to work for you. And to help you with this, just read this book. It's called Traction by Weinberg and Mayers. Gabriel Weinberg and Mayers, not to be confused by the Gino Wickman Traction. It's Traction. These are the DuckDuckGo guys. And good news, AI already knows this book. AI knows the methodology inside. It's called the Bullseye Method. And I ask AI all the time, based on my product, this market, UVP, the ICP, give me a whole bunch of traction ideas. Why not, instead of going getting a marketing consultant, and I know this is putting a lot of people out of jobs, making them obsolete, but this is the future because all that information is already out there and it's being trained in those models. The key takeaways here are, if you did your ICP correctly, channels are easy. You understand who your initial customer profile is, or your ideal customer profile. You know where they hang out. You know where they talk, where they complain, the social media, how they communicate with each other, which magazines they read, what content they respond to best. This is going to be so much easier for you. Ask AI how you can own the problem niche on a specific channel. For example, YouTube. I work with AI to say, hey, this is the content that I need. How do I own the niche of early stage fundraising? I want to own that problem. On that channel, I want every single founder who's having the same challenges that I can solve come to me. I want to own that. And think of yourself like a channelpreneur, a channel entrepreneur. I want to dominate that channel because that's going to be worth so much to me in the future. I'm going to tell investors, and that becomes part of the asset package that helps me secure funding. Now, so many founders ask me, should I pay for my initial customers? My answer is no, but only pay to learn how to optimize a channel. You can pay more later to scale, and that's what investor money is going to be for, to pour gasoline on that fire. But in the initial phases, don't make your founder market fit rely solely upon paid ads. Paid customer acquisition is a sinkhole, and it is very bad for you in the long run because all you're doing is creating advertising debt or marketing debt. Your return on ad spend needs to come later after you've learned. Now, to accelerate that learning, I will do $100 experiments or $200 experiments. I'm running multiple ads right now for a specific MVP, and they're $55 per ad for like 280,000 impressions. I'll pay to learn because I want to do it organically eventually. You can pay to test your messaging. You can pay to target a specific individual, geographic area. There's so much you can learn and accelerate that learning by paid, but only to learn. Later on, you'll have plenty of budget to pay to exponentially increase your results. But hear this. If you do not get referrals, well, it's an indication that you can go and improve your MVP. A lack of referrals is a form of feedback. You want to ask why and what's stopping people from referring all their best friends. That's where something like an NPS, Net Promoter Score, comes in, where they give you feedback and they say, no, I'm not ready to tell my coworkers about this. This feedback is invaluable. It will set you up later for success. It's like going slow and steady to eventually scale very, very quickly. Because what you've done in the problem solution fit step is you've asked someone for $1. You've asked someone to pay money. And the best feedback you're going to get at that step is when you're talking to customers about the price. But if they're not willing to refer, you're going to be stuck on a linear growth path. That's not what startups are all about. You have to get to exponential growth. And if you have to keep paying for that growth, it'll always stay linear, no matter how much return on ad spend that you're getting. Organic growth leads to opportunities for acceleration, such as if you're paying for it. But it also leads to other competitive advantages, such as network effects, scale effects, brand effects, where customers own your product. They care about it so much, they're willing to shout it out on the mountaintops for you. I call them proactive advocates for your company. Those are worth gold. And the more those you have, because they work for free and a refer customer costs you nothing, the more investors are going to be interested and the more valuable it is, because it's very difficult to knock off a loyal customer that's referring their friends than someone you just paid for. Someone else can pay them more or come with something better. They can be talked into it with money. They can be talked out of it with more money. And that's called becoming commoditized. And that's not where you want to be. It does not help lead you to funding. Here's where I want you to trust the system. No, I don't want you to just get one customer and go out and make $1. Truth be told, if you can charge $10 for your MVP, go for it. If you can reach 10 customers, go for it. But it's the principle behind it, the incremental gains principle. If you can get one customer from one channel to pay you $1 and refer to one other customer, you know how to systematically scale that to millions. It's better to learn from that one customer. It's better to get that $1 first, because then you can scale that to 2 customers and $2 and $3, etc., and keep moving, eventually getting to a point where you're making millions. And investors love this approach, especially if you use AI. I'm going to say this over and over again like a broken record. Investors are rewarding hyper-efficient companies. If you can explain to them how you did this using the incremental gains approach, and you got the one customer going, they paid you the $1, and every week you're growing and you're adding 1%, 2%, 3%, eventually getting to 10% week over week growth, investors are going to experience that FOMO, because they'll be thinking, man, if this keeps going, you're not going to need my money. The founder won't need my money. I'll be squeezed out of the deal. I'm going to be passed up. And that's an investor's worst nightmare. FOMO, greed start to set in, and they'll be more proactive about approaching you. They'll be trying to convince you to take their money, and it changes the power dynamic. And trust me, as you trust this system, you're going to get to the point where you'll have more options. You'll have more of the power dynamic on your side. And I love helping founders get there. Let's do that together. Now that we worked our way inwards from both sides of this model, you're going to meet in the middle and create your first screener intro pitch deck. I've got so many videos on my channel about this that I'm not going to torture it to death. And that's all you need right there to create the proper pitch deck, where you're going to go through friends, family, and associates, sorting them by ABC, and you're going to be developing founder investor fit. It may happen right away. You might have so much traction just from what you've done on the previous steps of this canvas, or you might begin a relationship with an investor as they begin to track you, and you will figure out which investors fit for you. Not only which investors fit you, but you might realize that investors don't fit you at all, and you're not going to need investors, or you want to seek alternative ways of funding. But the key points here is start with the people who saw your idea validation deck. Remember, I told you, you're going to get practice. You're starting to develop your network. You're going to go back to them and say, look where we've come from that initial step. Look how fast we've done it. Look how much we've executed, how much we've proven ourselves. These are all the roadblocks that have come along the way, and we've overcome them. They're going to get emotionally invested in your story. All you have to do is go to them and say, hey, I've got my next version of pitch deck with more information. We've hit some milestones, some inflection points. I'd love your feedback and to share with you our progress. You're going to be asking them how much traction they need to see. Every investor has a different investment thesis to the amount of traction they need before it unlocks their funding. They may say, I need $10,000 MRR or $10,000 total generated. Or it might be a specific marquee brand, a type of customer that they're looking for. They might even set you up with customers and say, okay, try and sell them. Whatever it is, you're finding this out because knowledge is power, and now you can set your goals for that type of investor. If one particularly suits you and you really want them to invest in you, when you ask, how much traction do you need to see? Well, you can start to target that and give yourself a break. You can relax and breathe while you get there, because you're going to be systematically using the incremental gains 1% at a time, one customer at a time, $1 at a time to get there. After that, you're going to ask permission to keep them updated. Can I keep you updated on our traction milestones? And I have founders doing this all the time, sending regular updates to investors. And every time you do, it's just another opportunity for them to get emotionally invested and go rah-rah and they cheer for you, especially if you're moving fast. Just like customer marketing, you want to market to investors and stay at the top of consciousness. So learn how to do a proper, regular investor update. In fact, many investors won't even consider you until you send them 6 months of updates. So start that right now. Get it out of the way. Get in the habit of it. You'll thank me later. Now, what if you're thinking you don't need investors? To that, I say it is better to have and not need than to need and not have. I always like to have investors hanging around, floating in the wings, being in the backup pool just in case, because you never know. I might hit an inflection point and say, gosh, I could really take investor money right now. This is a perfect time for growth. You might want to stay in relationship with that investor for a future startup. You never know. You could be a serial founder in the making, just like me. And I've had the same investor invest in multiple startups of mine, and that's been a lot of fun because they fit me. Remember, founder, investor fit. That's what you're going for, and you're going to start figuring that out soon enough. And once again, use AI to create and edit this deck. Literally plug it all in. In fact, here's another pro tip for you. I give you permission to do this. Pull the transcripts from my other videos talking about how to do pitch decks and say, based on this advice, help me do this pitch deck with these slides. And AI is going to do that for you a lot faster than you having to watch all my videos. Hopefully you've learned, and now you can discern, see the difference, and start to make your own updates, edit it, add the nuance, your little special touches. But to get the brunt of the work done and to save yourself a lot of headache, use AI, prompt it properly, learn how to do it. It'll be an education well worth it in the future. By this step, time is going to become a challenge. You're going to feel stretched in a million different ways. You want to divvy up your time systematically. The system I use is to block out time in my calendar. And if I'm in the throes of raising money at an early stage, I will split up my time in 4 different buckets. The first bucket is shipping product. Second bucket, talking to customers and trying to get customers to buy my product. Third bucket is talking to investors, going out and pitching and spending time developing my investor network. And my fourth bucket is self-care, working out, eating right, making sure I get sleep, actually taking time away, talking to my family. That fourth bucket is going to help the other 3 buckets happen. And I literally have to schedule that because it's so easy to say, you know what, I'm just going to let the customers go to the side here because I got this great investor presentation coming up and I want to build this product this way. Or you've got this really great feature that you're totally obsessed about and it requires a little more time. And so you start ignoring talking to investors and suddenly you're there going, where are all the investors? How come they don't want to talk to me? Well, it's because you haven't been working with customers to get that traction. Meanwhile, you're feeling overwhelmed, and I get it. And founders have to be exceptional. You have to systematically become more productive with your time, and that's the reason I schedule everything in. Guard your time, keep the boundaries, focus. Don't do things such as going to networking events and going to pitch competitions. That's not going to help you. If it doesn't go into those 4 buckets, I say eliminate it. Be absolutely brutal. Be violently focused, relentless in your execution, because that's what a chief execution officer does. Keeps everybody focused on the prize, on the North Star, and you don't have any room to distract yourself because there's only finite amounts of energy and resources and time during the day for you as a founder. Take care of yourself. Now we get to step 6, and this is where I admit it becomes sort of a slog. You're going to start optimizing for scale. You're going to start on the left once again. It's going to be optimizing these systems on the left-hand side 1% at a time. How do we optimize our unique value proposition to be able to pull another 1%? How do we get 1% more customers to love our product? How do we get them to pay us 1% more money? Maybe you're adding more features. You've given a better membership tier that costs more money, or you're giving them reasons to buy from you multiple times. By doing this, you will eventually hit product market fit. Product market fit is that elusive holy grail of a term that investors talk about. Product market fit unlocks all sorts of things, such as funding options. Investors come out of the woodwork, but most importantly, by this time, it's your game to lose. A lot of founders do 2 things wrong here. They start to ask, do I have product market fit? How do I know if I have product market fit? Or they say, I have product market fit, and they give us all these types of vanity metrics and different things that don't have anything to do with product market fit whatsoever. The reality of product market fit is you never have to ask if you have product market fit. You just know. You have a hair on fire scenario where everything has come together. You've got distribution. Your customers are giving you great feedback. They're asking you different types of support questions, asking you how to get more, how to use your product differently. You're starting to show signs of profitability. The pathway to profitability is there because you are scaling to the point where you're even worried about servers melting down. You can't hire engineers or customer service people fast enough. It's this flurry of activity where you're thinking to yourself, this isn't product market fit. I'm going to go out of business. This is really stressful. And that's how I know you've got product market fit. And investors don't like it when you have to brag about product market fit. It's a show, don't tell situation. That's why I only use the term product market fit to identify this section of the plan. But if you've done everything properly, product market fit is yours. And the only time I see founders tank their startups after they've achieved product market fit are co-founder issues or they've taken their eye off the North Star. It's either burnout or bored out. You either get burnt out and then co-founders start to fracture, or you get bored out and you stop doing the things that made you successful. Distractions start to set in. People start thinking, oh, we've arrived. But you have to keep your eye on the prize. So if you don't want to fumble the ball here, there are no excuses. None whatsoever. Now you're an execution machine. As the CFXO in your company, you are keeping everybody accountable, including yourself. Every week, you're going to look at this entire system and you're going to be asking, what should you start doing, stop doing, and continue doing that is working? It's as simple as that. It's a boring conversation, actually. You just look, it's like a scoreboard and say, are we winning? Are we maintaining our 6% growth? Are we going backwards compared to last week? Or what do we need to do to get it to 7% growth? What do we need to start, stop, continue doing? And you become ruthless about execution. You say, we are committing to it, and everybody is focused on moving the needle towards product market fit. Now, once you've optimized that side of the canvas, it doesn't stop. You're going to move into the next step, which is optimizing for scale and profitability. You're going to the other side, and once again, like a broken record, 1% improvement at a time. You're going to set the objectives, key results, and actions. But this time, the right side may be, hey, how do we expand into different types of channels? How do we scale this? And how do we get more organic growth? Because we want profitability. In other words, if I spend $10 to get one customer, if they go out and they refer 3 other customers, how do I get it to 4 other customers? That's going to impact your bottom line and start racing you towards the almighty profitability. And by this moment, you probably already have investors saying, take my money, take my money. The better terms you're going to get, the easier fundraising is going to be. Just remember your AI first approach. Invest in that AI to automate these systems and measure your ROI every single step of the way. By now, you're used to it. You're a veteran. This should be second nature. And congratulations, you made it to step number 8. You're going to secure the ideal funding that's right for you. Founder investor fit, or you're going to look back and go founder funding fit. I've got some options. Here's why. You've kept investors updated with your traction. You're sending them your metrics. You're sending them inflection points, and you're updating them with everything that's going on. and you've gotten to profitability. Let's discuss the difference between milestones and inflection points. Milestones are basically markers or achievements that you unlock. Let's say you ship a new feature or you've gotten this many customers, which impacts the value of your company. Absolutely. But inflection points are those moments when the value of your company has increased dramatically in one fell swoop. You've unlocked a key insight, or you've figured out a hack, or suddenly you're getting exponential results from your marketing, or you've built in some engineering which has created more referrals, or somehow you've created a process that's cut off 10% of the resource commitment, the allotment required. It might even be a landmark hire. You might have poached a key person from another company because you've got such great results. They'd only come over if you're a baby unicorn sitting in a rocket ship and they want a seat. My point is, investors fundamentally expect you to hit milestones. If you're not, why would they even consider investing in you? But what really gets them excited are inflection points, surprise news and events. And those are naturally going to happen. And that's why you've already created this pipeline where you're communicating with investors this inflection point. You suddenly hit that 10% week over week growth. That's an inflection point that has dramatically increased the value of your company. But what's most important about communicating inflection points is to send the data. Send the metrics. And by now, you're keeping track of it. All those exercises where you've been calculating the ROI and 1% week over week growth and the incremental gains and all the stuff that I'm having you do as a chief execution officer, that all becomes the story in which you tell investors. That's why you have to pitch a story. Don't pitch the idea. First-time founders always pitch the idea. Investors want to know, can you execute? Show them with the data how you're executing for traction, those inflection points. Because the best time to raise is when you don't need it. FOMO and greed are absolutely real. Use them to your advantage. And my final point here is, if you've done this entire system, you might not need investors anyway, especially if you're using AI. If you made it this far, you deserve some encouragement. Although CFXO is a system primarily for management, it will make you a world-class leader. Too many leaders today, especially startup founders, do not take systems thinking seriously. And they also use anecdotal thinking, which are all about the stories in your head, the stories that you read, the stories that you get stuck in that you're trying to live, versus first principles thinking, which is what this system is all about. Breaking things down to first principles. And if you can think in first principles and apply them, you will be a leader. If you can be the CFXO, you can lead other people in their execution as well. And you will be able to get productivity out of them by also giving them AI tools or challenging them to use AI, by leading with example first. And you will be a prime leader that every investor sees and wants to invest in. You will have a swagger, a confidence, an executive presence that investors cannot ignore, because at the end of the day, they want to invest in founders, not just companies. And I want to remind you, you are not born a leader. You can grow and learn to be a leader. It's part of having that open mindset. And if you're just better than average than the other founder, and you're more consistent in your execution longer than all those other founders, eventually you will win. Maybe not with this startup, but any startup that you put your hand to, eventually you're going to get there. You will be a successful founder. And that's what this is all about. Startups fail all the time, but you don't have to go from startup to startup failing and staying still. You can improve every single time. Learn how to be the CFXO your startup needs, and you'll be just fine. I look forward to hearing about all your success. If you haven't done so already, go to the description, download the free resources. You'll be subscribed to my newsletter. We're going to send you a lot more goodies to take advantage of. Watch the playlist that I'm putting on the screen for the full course. It starts from beginning to the end. I'll keep adding the videos here. And as always, let me know what you're thinking. Give me some feedback. I'll continue to try to adjust and improve my videos to help you out. Thanks for hanging out with me, becoming the CFXO. I'll see you in the next video.